Suns fans, you know what time it is in the PHX.
Empire of the Suns.
Phoenix Suns.
Empire of the Suns.
Hello there, and welcome to the Empire of the Suns podcast. My name is Kellen Olson, joined as always by Kevin Zimmerman. What up, man?
Howdy, howdy. We're back.
Can we open with Cats Talk? Can we just do it off rip?
We're going to get bad reviews.
I'm joking. We'll do it later, I promise. We'll do it later. The 7 people, and that's probably being too dramatic.
It's
the
NBA
7,
draft
that's
talk.
Probably
it
exaggerating.
Is. Yeah.
There is some NBA draft talk in there, yeah. You do find a way to, like, bring us back, not down to Earth per se. We're still floating in orbit, but we get in orbit. Like, we're out of orbit with how our Cats Talk doesn't even relate to anything except U of A basketball. Phoenix Suns. We're recording this on Wednesday afternoon, and it's that time of year, Kevin, where we talk about the timing of when we record our podcast, because we're not saying like the vibes have completely shifted after 2 great wins, the second one being what is easily their win of the year so far over the Spurs on Sunday. They played really fantastic basketball, but then they go on the road, play the Warriors, and it's just a lot more of what we saw in the first 4 games of the season, maybe the 5th if you want to include Memphis specifically. I think that's okay as well. So it's kind of this team right now where we've seen what they're capable of. We've seen them at their best, which I think is awesome and great to see. And we should probably talk about the San Antonio game more than any other game.
Yeah.
But we also know, and I don't know if I said this on this podcast specifically, but I've mentioned in other spaces, like this team's going to get down by 15, 20 a lot in games. And in a lot of games, they're going to try and come back. And every now and then it's going to be the Sacramento game when they complete the comeback. But most of the time we're going to see what happened against Utah or what happened against Denver, where it's kind of there for a second and then it's not, or what happened against Golden State, where you get within 8, you make a 16-2 run in the third quarter. It's going to be a balance of these two things throughout the season. And again, we're at the point now where they're doing this mostly without Dillon Brooks. He played the first 3 games of the year. He's still out. We don't know his status for tomorrow's game, so this might age a little poorly if one of those guys is coming back. But Jalen Green is still out. There was a weird thing where he was listed as questionable for, I believe, the Memphis game, I want to say. The Memphis game. He was listed as questionable, which that means you've been upgraded. That means you're showing really good signs. And then he doesn't play. And then he's just listed as out for these next 3 games. And still being called day-to-day when it is now a week-to-week process at this point, because he's been out for multiple weeks. So they're waiting on that. And I think that that is going to continue to... They win 2 in a row, and you're like, you kind of lose sight of like, oh yeah, Jalen Green, Dillon Brooks are still out, and they really, really, really need those guys to be back. But I think it's great that we got this San Antonio game and even the Utah game to some extent to see what this team is capable of, because we were searching for that in the first week, didn't get it at all, and we saw it.
Let's talk about that San Antonio game. To me, the biggest part of this, and every single game that I've seen, and Steve Kerr talked about this in his pregame before they lost to the Warriors, is they have a concept of an idea of what they should be and what they are. I think that's a good starting place. We talked about this a little bit last time, but again, the 3-point shots are getting up. The defense that they want to be playing now, I'm going to give them, it's not a pass, but it's a reason, I guess, that just being a young team.
Use your excuse. It's warranted in this situation.
Being a young team, you're going to have those games where you're just, again, it was the same thing in the Warriors game last night of not getting in enough airspace in that first quarter, and then you're just down 15, and you can't do that. Yeah, those inconsistencies are going to be there, but San Antonio game, especially in much of the Utah game, the second Utah game, you see if we put together good quarter after good quarter, then this is what we can be. This is how we execute our plan. A Wemby game plan is complicated, I think, and a good example of, okay, this is not your normal human being you're defending, and you're not going to defend him like a normal human being. If you can execute something that different from the norm and unusually, and you put yourself with doubles and scramble situations, and you recover out of those, I at least think that's a super positive sign that this team has high upside to grow and get better this season, I guess you could say. They're not going to play that perfectly and get into someone's head. I think they were in his head a bit, but he's still growing himself. But that you're able to do that and stay within your principles and look like you're working as a team on defense is really good signs for the coaching staff. And by the way, we talked about this probably when Jordan Knott was hired. My biggest thing was regardless of what you think of him, his credibility in the locker room. And he gained that a lot through the work ethic. Even when you hear Dylan Brooks' book talk about him, like it was all positive to this point. But when they have that success and they see, oh, Jordan and his staff put together a really good game plan for that game and got us to a really impressive win, that's huge for just buy-in the rest of the year. So I think having that game that early, fairly significant beyond just like how they played, if that makes sense.
So they are tied for 23rd in defensive rating, which is extremely misleading, I think, because it factors in a lot of what ailed the Suns early on in the year, which like the points off turnover stuff was like absurd with how high those numbers were. And then there was an offensive rebounding disaster against Utah. So those numbers really super inflated these defensive numbers overall. So when you go to clean the glass, which also takes out garbage time, and they've played in a bit of garbage time as well, they're top 10 in half-court defense right now. They're ninth in the league, and they're forcing the 8th most turnovers as well. So again, we talk about identity culture. What is your team going to be? Where is that team? Didn't really see it at all in the first week. We definitely have seen it in the last couple of games. Odds cited since the Denver game. So their last 5 games or last 4 leading into the Golden State game where he felt like the defense was better. I really saw a notable change against Utah on Halloween in Phoenix against the Jazz on Halloween. And then the Spurs game as well 2 days later, but they were like signs of progress against Memphis and Utah to his point where the first 3 games, it was really rough watching them defend. And now it's like, okay, that's not your standard, but we know what you're capable of. So can you bring that consistently? And I think some human nature stuff kicked in the Warriors game, if I'm being honest. They heard a lot about how much better they are defensively, how they're getting better defensively. And then everyone in the moment kind of lost focus a little bit. And it was the tape that they're have gone over already today was like, hey, we're not a team that can afford to lose focus for a half second here, lose our man there, allow Draymond Green to drive past a closeout and finish a layup there. There were just a handful of those where Steph starts the game with open layup, open 3. One of them's off a turnover, one of them's off a set that Steve Kerr draws up, so it's probably going to look pretty good and work. But with all that being said, they were just in a position against Golden State where they got a little bit too sloppy, and that's okay. But there were plenty of more signs in the last week or two. Week and a half that were encouraging since we last talked. The number one, of course, being Devin Booker. There were people getting upset about the criticism that he was taking, which is a tale as old as time with any star player. We see a lot of this happening with the Kyler Murray discourse right now. And I know like the word star, that'll upset people, but just like high profile players on teams. That discourse it'll get a little spicy. It'll get a little bit interesting, but lo and behold, hey, now this is why we hold this guy to a standard, because that is what it looks like when he is playing elite basketball, when he is one of the best players in the world. He was sensational against the Jazz. He was awesome against San Antonio. And then as a shot maker, it was one of those things against the Warriors where as a shot maker, he was sublime once again. He got to the line 11 times as well, 11 of their 16 free throw attempts, that concerning trend continuing in that Warriors game. But he only had 4 assists and actually only had 11 potential assists. So it was one of those games where he was just in a shot-making groove. He was taking those after early on his teammates were making shots, and he is totally within his right to do that. The issue is, and I'm not saying he should change his mind because of this. I liked the decision from him. You don't have Jalen Green. You don't have Dylan Brooks, so you're relying on other offensive pieces to really get going. But now you look at his numbers all of a sudden, it was like, okay, those numbers don't really represent how good he's been. But now all of a sudden he's averaging 31 and 7, shooting 52 from the field, 43 from 3, and 86 from the line, where he's having that type of all-NBA season statistically. And if he continues to defend the way that he did in those 2 games against the Warriors, I thought he was fine. But he's been tremendous. It's just going to be make the right play stuff where we're going to see games where he tries to make the right play. His teammates don't make shots, and it's like, okay, he's going to keep trusting them throughout the game, or is he going to kind of pivot like he did against Golden State, in my opinion, which was like, okay, technically Ryan's open in the corner. Technically Royce is open at the top of the key. But I've also got a chance to get off a midi here, and I'm just going to take it. And that's pretty much what he did that whole game.
The feeling out part is good to me too, where he's picking his spots. And for a guy who is having to produce 31 and 7 to get his team like within range of having a competitive chance, to me, that's a good sign that, again, he's not on the ball all the time. He's picking his spots. He's back to doing the thing that we started seeing way back in 2019, 18, where he's just like, all right, I don't even have it going, but I'm just going to go hunt free throws. And he can do that still. So just his spot on this team, I think, is super in a good place, and it's super in a good place if you put Jalen Green next to him. And yeah, we'll see there. Other part that kind of plays into the last 3-4 games is Mark Williams going into the starting lineup and just changing, one, the rotations, but two, giving you an actual big in that starting group. I think that was super important. The Oso experiment didn't exactly work, and now he's in a less high leverage role. Mark Williams last night, I will say, did not get off to a good start because Quinton Post, if you don't know who he is and you didn't watch games last year, he is not a post player, even though he's a center. Bad joke. I think Kevin Ray made this joke.
EJ made it. Okay. A joke where he was like, his name should be Quinton 3. And it was very funny. Yeah,
I made that joke also. And
yours is less funny because you still don't have the delivery that EJ does. EJ's delivery really does it.
Anyway, they should have guarded him at the 3-point line, and Mark Williams is going to have to be tested and put through that and see if he can hang better because it wasn't great that last night. But anyway, he's been pretty good at just stabilized that lineup.
He's been much better defensively than I expected. And what I expected
he actually did better on Steph Curry last night, honestly, when he's on an island there.
What I expected was one of the worst starting bigs defensively in the league based on everything that those who watched a lot of Charlotte Hornets tape were telling us. And I watched a bit myself and came away with not similar thoughts, but concerning thoughts on how he was going to defend. And he's legit been somewhere between average to good as a defender to start the year, which is huge progress because offensively is where he makes his money. I asked him after the San Antonio game if he felt like he has something to prove defending on the ball, because on switches and stuff, he's actually been good. And Odd has been pointing that out a lot, rightfully so, because it's a big step for him to be able to do that. And he didn't really feel like it wasn't something that I could tell was like bulletin board material for him or whatever, people saying he can't switch or whatever, because sometimes guys are told they can't switch or hear they can't switch and then they switch and they're like, see, I can switch. Didn't seem like a thing for him, which was interesting. 16 and 16 for him in that game. He was good. He's been pretty good overall to start the year. Collins having a very nice year off the bench. Royce is shooting the ball very well. Grayson has had a good start to the year as well. And then for me, like, it starts and ends with Ryan Dunn right now, because we've got to see through every 10 games, there has got to be at least like one young player, if not more, that are having good spurts for them or having developmental moments at least. You can include Mark Williams in there, as you should. He's only 23. And Dunn at 22 showed a lot for me in these games offensively. Prior to the Golden State game, he was shooting and he shot 2 of 5 on his 3. So a downtick there, or 2 of 5 on his 2s, against Golden State. But he was shooting 70% on his 2s. A lot of that is transition. A lot of that is just easy back cuts, easy offensive tip-ins, like slot cuts, things like that. And that's what he can do to be a guy that all of a sudden is averaging almost 10 points a game. He's at 10 points a game right now. In fact, he had 10 against Golden State, 17 against San Antonio, 13 against Utah. These are all the progress points we talked about him eating last year. Then he gets this injury. Then it's this weird thing during the All-Star break. Then it seems like he kind of plays hurt in the rookie-sophomore game just so he can play and enjoy the experience. Then he comes back and he's still kind of hurt. And then Mike Budenholzer's coaching for his job and doesn't want to play a rookie. And that's how you all of a sudden go from this guy's having an offensive breakthrough compared to what he did at Virginia to not really playing for the second half of the year. He's getting to explore that a little bit more. This year he's been handling the ball a little bit more, and everyone's been really impressed, rightfully so, with some of the dump-off passes that he's made as well. This was a guy who had, I want to say the number was 35 assists in 2 full years of playing college.
Yeah.
And he's averaging an assist and a half right now. He's got 13 in 8 games, which is great progress for him. He had 57 in 74 games last year. So it's all these little building block moments for him where I think we're starting to see some things come together for him overall. And it's, again, this is the PJ Tucker rule that we talk about on the pod all the time. Guys like him are not going to look that good on teams like this, but we're still seeing the signs at least. Do you agree with me? Defensively, it's still like, brother, that's a screen. It's still screen navigation is a struggle for him, and he's the first one to talk about it. But are you with me? Has he been impressive to you like to me?
I was impressed because we went into the season and I said he needs to defend more of the smaller guys, especially on this team, to take everything off book. And whether it's Grayson or Jalen Green when he's back, he like got decent time on Steph last night. He's been good against some of those smaller matchups. So those, he's checked the box there. I don't know if you know this off the top of your head or you can look it up, but his corner threes look like, it's funny you mentioned PJ Tucker a sec ago. His corner threes look really good. And it seems like he's really focused on, okay, that's my shot. Like, I don't need to worry about arc threes right now. I just need to knock down corners. And maybe this is recency bias with the last few games that I'm thinking of. But his corner threes, yeah.
It is. He's shooting 27% on his corner threes, which is the 0 percentile. So you could
What about around the arc? Is he taking at least more corner threes?
Yeah, it's here, let me see. Hold on a second. Hold.
Is he at least? Yeah, it's like
it's right around the same number, but I think to your point, it's not exacerbated last year, but it's different last year because there's a lot more ball handlers, whereas now it's just one, so he's there. I'm picking up what you're putting down still.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that's like, okay, it seems like it's been a shot that's going to be important in this offense. And if he can knock that down, like that's a baby step as far as, again, meeting the PJ Tucker requirements of, yes, you're an awesome defender. Give us a little something on offense. And to your point back on the other ways he's getting buckets, yes, offensive rebounds, that's going to happen. Cuts, transition, all that stuff.
18 of 21 at the rim.
Okay.
86%.
He's going to pile up points, a decent number of points without doing too much, I guess is where I'm getting at. And I think that's important just for his confidence and where he's at as an offensive player. But yeah, and also it's good just that if you give that offensive production, as unimpressive as it may seem, it's enough to stick you on the floor and keep you on the floor if you're that good of a defender. And that's to me the big key. It's like, as long as you just get by on offense, you aren't Josh Okogie off the floor. That's a step forward for him this year.
How much longer do you think Oso is going to get in the rotation? Yeah. Because we are at a point now with him offensively. And again, this is just coming off. So these are his this is his shooting numbers for the season. He is shooting 47%. And again, this is a guy who's almost only shooting like around the rim. Like he's not taking jumpers or anything. So for him to be that low, considering the normal percentages we're used to seeing from guys around the rim, it is concerning. So for games, 3 for 5, 4 for 7, but then 2 for 6, 1 for 3, 1 for 3. Made all 3 of his shots against Utah, 2 of 5 against San Antonio, 1 for 4 against Golden State last night. I think this is something we've talked about with him a lot, where the floater is really, really important for him, or
not
scoring,
going down,
or scoring through contact is really important. Getting to the foul line is important. He's only taken 8 free throw attempts so far in 8 games, and he's 4 of 8 on those free throw attempts as well. And then we talk about the passing, like the passing. He has 10 assists and 13 turnovers. It's not just a number that represents his playmaking, but his offensive impact right now is a negative, to say the least. And it's just a matter of how long they're going to sort of ride this out. I guess his numbers right now shooting the ball, he's actually 11 of 13 at the rim. But the thing to understand about that number, like Ryan, is he's not taking every shot he could at the rim. It is when he is wide open on a dunk, when he's in transition, when the lane opens up, whatever it is exactly. And then on the floaters, he's 6 of 23 right now from short mid-range.
It feels like that. And that's where it's like, oh, someone help me do math. It's almost better that you go and shoot 50% of the free throw line than shoot that percentage just as a floater. Yep. So you might as well just attack people and get fouls at this
45% on the floaters last year, by the way. So he was hitting it last year.
Yeah, and in college, I thought he had more of a floater. It just looks like he has the yips almost on those. But yeah, to answer your question about when he's going to be out of the rotation, I think it's when Dylan Brooks gets back, because they've showed that they're big wings. They're open to experimenting with everyone, and we're already at Isaiah Livers' time, which, by the way, have looked decent because he is a stretch threat a little bit. He can put the ball in the deck a little bit. He looks like he's been good moving, although did he miss one game, or he's been on the injury report because of that hip injury that he's come back from?
Had a little knock on his hip, which was like really scary because that's the one he had surgically repaired.
Yeah.
But it seems like it was just like a bruise or something. Like
and he looks just fine the other night, dunking down the rim on a cut. So I think he's in there as far as, okay, Nigel Hayes-Davis looked like he was struggling, just nervous or whatever you want to call it. not providing anything as far as offense, not getting up shots. So they're experimenting with the bigger wings, I would say. And yeah, I think when Dylan Brooks is back and Jalen Green's in, maybe you don't have to worry about it that much, but something to monitor that they're obviously not happy with, or just don't have answers to, I guess, not necessarily not happy.
Well, the thing about Oso is he's playing the backup 5 minutes right now. He's at 142 total minutes this year. Nick Richards is at 71. In the last 2 games, you look at the Warriors game, Richards played 4 minutes, Oso played 20.
Yeah.
Against the Spurs, it was a little more even because they ran 2 bigs a little bit more. Oso 14, Richards 11. I don't think it's as much of like is Oso better at the 4 or the 5 situation as much as he's just got to do what he's got to do on the floor. I do think that Ott is going to give him a longer leash because of what he provides defensively. There are some mistakes defensively. He's the guy I was alluding to that let Draymond get by him on a closeout somehow.
But the switchability at the 5 is a good point. Like,
there was some switchability stuff still showing in these last 2 games. Like, I thought it was the Sacramento game where I posted the video on my page of what he did in the third quarter, which was affect almost every possession with what he was doing switching, because Sacramento got used to them not switching, and then they switched.
He's a real change-up guy, I will say, and that gives him, like, just from both ends, even just the ball handling and rebounding and moving the ball in the half court. He just brings something different, but we'll see.
That he does. Anything else?
I don't think so.
They're getting up a lot of threes still. I think if you want to talk, like, I think next episode is when we will cross the 10-game threshold, and it'll have been 3 weeks, and that's like a good, healthy, like, let's look at all the numbers together episode.
Yeah.
They're getting up a lot of threes. They're not taking any shots at the rim, which we could have seen coming. But I was looking through it the other day. Like, the numbers don't look too bad.
Have you ever gotten a technical in any basketball game where you were not playing?
Yeah, I got thrown out of a game once when I was when I was 11 or 12, because I remember being horrified of like what my dad was going to do. Not that he was going to like do anything to me physically.
So you got a tech, and on your way out, you got a second.
Is he going to ground me for like the rest of my life? Yeah, there was this punk kid who had a sleeve on that I just didn't like from the start of the game, and I was working him. Like, let's call it for what it is. I was having the better day of the two. And again, I'm talking, like I say, working him. I was 12 years old. Yeah. Like, let's calm down. Like, it looks like what you think it would look like when a 12-year-old's playing basketball. I was playing better. There we go. I was playing better. And then he was just kind of giving me attitude and then started to say things here and there. And I was playing so much better than him that eventually I was just like, I kept looking at him after I scored, but it was one of those things where I said something, the ref was right next to me when I said something, and he gave me a technical foul, which I don't even think were like things in that league, but the ref was just like, not going to let you do that. And I looked back at him and I was like, where have you been the whole game? Like, did one of those conversations, but in the way that a 12-year-old me would say it, and saying like, that's not fair. He was doing it on the other end or whatever. And then the ref was like, I'm not having this conversation. Like, we're not talking about this now. And then I just kept going, and then I got tossed, and I walked like straight to the parking lot and just waited for my dad. And I was like, I was scared.
At least you were playing in that one. The Dylan Brooks
thing definitely got
grounded.
I just don't remember for how long. It must have been like an eternity, I imagine. Yeah, never. That was funny. It was more funny to me. I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I was more amused by it, but it was funny. It was bad basketball. Like, you shouldn't be doing that, but also like the timing of giving him the tech from the ref. It's just like, was he on you the whole game? I don't think he was on you the whole game. I think you were just like ready to let that go. Clippers on Thursday. I am hoping to speak. I'm hoping to be one of the few, I should say, not me specifically. This is not a me thing. To speak with Bradley Beal. We'll see. This is a thing where sometimes the guy won't talk, and it's not the player's decision. Just leave it at that.
Depends on the team.
Previous experiences that I've had, so we'll see. Yes, that was probably my least favorite day of like last season or 2 seasons ago. Oh, I hated that day.
It also wasn't for like, I want to talk to this guy for a controversial reason. It was
just want to catch up. What's up, man? Let's talk Rams. But yeah, that was something. So we'll see if we talk to him. Keep an eye on ArizonaSports.com if you want to see Brad talk about last year. I suppose he's been in and out of the lineup. He's dealt with some injuries, dealt with some injury management, not playing back-to-backs, that kind of thing, minutes restrictions. So same old story for him, unfortunately, for him. Again, like seeing DA give 29-10 to the Blazers, I was like, let's go, DA. That a boy. I just want to see you guys play good basketball. And so they've got 2 against Clippers, who have been an absolute mess so far. They're 3-4. They look lifeless when you watch them. And then, speaking of lifeless, the Pelicans are in town on Monday. So this is sneaky one of those stretches where, like, you should probably win 2 here.
We talked, this is like peeling back real big picture in the NBA, but we talked about, like, chances of Suns making play-in. We don't need to go into that right now, but you had to have people, just the bottoms fall out, and we're already at Pelicans. Memphis.
Dallas is after New Orleans.
And Dallas's injury hit again.
It's not really injury hits so far. AD's had a little bit of stuff here and there, but it was, I can't remember if we talked about it. No, we never did an offseason thing. But when everyone was doing, and this is revisionist history, easy for me to say this now, it doesn't work. When everyone was getting super excited about Cooper Flag playing point guard, I was like, shouldn't just like the guy D'Lo, who's been in I know it's D'Lo, but like he's been in the league for 8, 9, 10 years at this point.
Didn't J-Kid do this with Giannis, and it was a work in progress? Like, long term, it's probably good.
Yeah. And it was like, aren't you? But you guys made the whole Luka trade to compete now. So it's like you're doing like a developmental thing at the start of the year. Like, what was? Doesn't seem very aligned, dare I say. They've got Dallas on the road and then Indiana, which is like everyone's hurt on their team right now. Like everyone.
They're also, what is their
Atlanta
record?
After that, without Trae Young, like those 6 games, like I think it's realistic for me to ask for 3 wins there.
Yeah.
Call me crazy. And then it's at Portland on November 18th, and then here's the gauntlet.
I don't know if you've heard anything about Portland this year, but
they're their own kind of, it hasn't translated on the court yet, but they've got their own thing going on. Friday, November 21st, they play Minnesota. Then it is San Antonio, Houston. Sacramento is the only notable team here. That's it. Then it's OKC, who might win 70. Denver, Lakers, who would look great. Rockets, Wolves, Warriors, Lakers. That is through to Christmas. So that was
basically end of November to Christmas.
That was why I was here on the pod last week being like, you got to start getting some wins here because it's going to get brutal for the Western Conference like it does for every team. But that's their stretch, basically, that month-long stretch. So this is a good opportunity over these next 6 games to get some wins. We'll see if they do. Hopefully we see Jalen Green and Dylan Brooks. I again, like you guys, I wish we had updates for you, but it is day-to-day. They're progressing the same.
I just want to see the complete team because there are signs of just if you have enough dudes. Yeah.
Yeah, like I felt bad for people covering the Jazz when Walker Kessler got hurt. And it's like, man, they're not even doing like the tanking and the trading people and leaving guys out of the lineup. It's like they're already just like losing pieces like that. That stinks. Cat talk before we go.
Koa Pete's good. Name to know if you're into the NBA draft stuff.
You and I chatted a bit before the season started, and I've been reading up a lot on this college season because long-time listeners of the pod, this is going back to like the late 2010s, will remember my vitriol for how I would speak about college basketball and the product that it is. I think that it's gotten much better in the last 2 years, and also this freshman class is insane. Everyone who follows this stuff religiously, like the Sam Bassinis of the world, I'm sure Gavoni, I haven't seen him around as much anymore as he's figuring out his next step. But everyone in those wavelengths has been like AJ DeBansa, Darren Peterson, Cameron Boozer, all these kids, and a lot of them were getting hyped up. Koa Pete was really not because he's kind of a unique, weird player. We'll break that down here in a second. But I went through like player rankings list, and he's like 60th, 65th on them in the country. And it's like I'm reading like all freshman teams, and he's not even on them. And I'm like, this is a top 10 recruit in the country on a team that is top 25 in the country. And a lot of Cat Stock listeners, you will know this. Like, not the biggest fan of Jaden Bradley's game in the world. He was awesome against Florida. It was awesome in his own way, where it's like, let's drive the ball and see what happens. And it went really well. But the team's going to be Koa's, and that was immediately clear in that game. And it's like, again, I'm thinking of those player rankings lists, like Hauk rated ahead of him, Condon rated ahead of him, like Xavier Lee, I think, was rated ahead of him. Boogie Flan might have been rated ahead of him. Like there were like 3 or 4 Florida players I know for a fact that were ahead of him on those lists, and it didn't make sense to me. I'm not saying he should have been rated like a top 20 player in the country or whatever, but it seemed like not even like top 50 on these ranking list things. I'm doing the fan thing where I get mad at players and where they're ranked. But he was like the best player on the floor by a mile. It was clear within 8 minutes where he was everywhere in that game. He was unreal.
Alex Condon was considered a top 15 pick. I didn't get it when I watched starting in the tournament a bit of Florida, and I just didn't get it. And Koa Pete just made him look like hey, buddy, you got to gain like 30 pounds if you're going to play center. And Koa Pete's like a power forward in the NBA. Yeah, I mean, old school game, a lot of high post, face up, turnaround stuff, put the ball in the deck a few times. But also, I think for your complaints about Tommy Lloyd's team in the past, like they let the young guys play. You get 3 freshmen, right, in the starting lineup. And Koa Pete was also playmaking out. Like he had the ball enough to score that much and play make. So I think that was the most intriguing part for me, where this offense has a very clear, like you're not making Braden Burries worry about too much. Like I'm sure he'll have big games in the future, but
everyone said this is the best front court in college basketball, and he worked them.
Yeah.
He's worked him. The whole offense, like whenever it ran through him, it looked great. He was able to get to his midi whenever he wanted to. His whole story, and I hope there are people listening who watched him in high school. Like those are the types of people that you hope are like following his collegiate career now, because they saw
Perry High School.
They were calling him, they were calling him Mr. Arizona on the broadcast. I think that's a pretty good nickname for him, because all he did was win state titles here. All he's done internationally, playing for Team USA in the unders, under 16, under 18, whatever qualifier it is, he's just been winning there. Just wins everywhere he goes. We hear about these types of college players before, but the whole story was, you watch certain kids in high school and it's just like they're so much more talented than everyone else. And then you watch kids where it's like they're so much more athletically better. It just looked like it was like a 26-year-old playing against 14-year-olds whenever you would watch his stuff. And he looked like an NBA player playing against JV college players in that game, against the defending champs, against the best front court in college basketball, supposedly. He was a monster. And the crazy part about that game, Jaden Bradley went nuts late. But again, like I think it's just like, is he going to hit the mid-range? Are the drives going to go well when he goes? It's a very mixed bag. It was a mixed bag in the first half, and then it got great in the second half. Braden Burries did nothing in the game. He got 2 fouls in 2 minutes, which sucked. Second call was terrible. And then he wasn't there. Aristode really didn't do much. Karchenkov was here and there. It was actually a good Del Orso game. Their center rotation played maybe the worst basketball I've ever seen out of a position group in a game.
So you're not buying Kriva's stock again? Oh wait, not again, because I bought some earlier.
I bought the stock that I bought. I'm still holding on to.
Okay.
But like reluctantly, Awaka, it was shocking. I've never seen him do that before, where he just like is not getting in place on rebounds and just like turning the ball over the way that he was. It was crazy. So all of that is pretty much going wrong, where again, Bradley played well, Del Orso did okay, and they were carried by a freshman in his debut in a neutral site. Not neutral site, it's McHale North. And that it was just super impressive, and it's like I'm
curious now.
I'm not even curious. I'm like comparing him to like Derek Williams, like kind of.
No, but like, is he going to have? If he
is it that kind of thing where Derek Williams comes in, 2-star recruit, no one really knows about him, and it's that type of level where it's
but like the sophomore year Derek Williams, you're saying.
Exactly. Yeah. And is it that kind of thing where it's like all this hype about this freshman class and it's all awesome? It still is this awesome, but we were looking at the wrong kid the whole time. Like, is this kid really the best out of all these guys? Like, that's how good he looked.
I was thinking of like there are a lot of college kids who are at 5 stars who will go first in the draft, who average like 20 points a game and stuff, but he kind of looked like he could go out there and put up, I don't want to make KD or Michael Beasley comparisons, but like they were like up here physically or skill set wise back then, where they could just go trip and get a 25 point, 12 rebounds their freshman year and they were gone. There aren't many people like that. I don't know if he's up there because his skill set and just like what he does is not like that advanced, but just because he's so physical, I'm wondering how good this season is going to be now.
Yeah, Vicini tweeted about it and basically said like the athleticism concerns, quote unquote, were just more lateral. I thought laterally he was moving great, and then he's fast. Like he can move for his size.
Yeah.
And he was just, with that speed, which I thought was going to be like his asset, he was just really composed with how he was using his body. And again, like he was just, again, Condon was getting ready for the draft and he worked him like physically. It was crazy how like you're just not used to seeing freshmen come in and do that. Like first Arizona player to ever put up that stat line in general, first Arizona freshman to like it was like second most points in a debut or whatever. He was unreal, and I want to shout out Lloyd before we go because I've criticized him heavily on Cats Talk. And he played 3 freshmen right away. They clearly realized or figured out or just decided like a lot of our offense is going to go through Koa right away against Florida in a neutral site game. And that takes a lot. I thought it was going to at least take a while to like see it go through the freshman a bit. But when Burries came out, they were all over the place because he was going to be a big part of their offense too, I think. So clearly trust the kid right away. Not something he did with Carter, and it had me really nervous, but it looks great.
Don't get a technical if you're sitting on the bench.
Yeah, are those our words of wisdom to the listeners?
Yeah, but honestly, forward? Like it was worth watching that end of that game to see that. Dylan Brooks' entertainment value is just like it's worth it.
Yeah, that's where I'm at too. All right, we will be back next week at some point. Maybe we'll come to you after the Pelicans game, or maybe we'll just wait a whole. How many games would that be? 5 whole games, like Friday of next week after the Pacers game, the home back-to-back, and see kind of where.
Maybe we'll do what we feel like, what we want.
Yeah, we run this.
Yeah, we do.
I tried to go with you on the bit there, even if I wasn't feeling it. But, I appreciate you for throwing out the alley. I just wasn't ready for the oop as much. All right, we'll be back next week, everyone. See you later.